Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Community Arts Partnership Spring Rights Literary Festivals, past and current Tompkins County Poet Laureate reading. I'm turning the mic over to our first Poet Laureate, the current Poet Laureate, Dan Rosenberg.
Hey, thank you, Robin, and thank you all for being here. It's really a treat, and it's a treat to be here with my fellow poets laureate, who are definitely the only people who will pluralize it that way. And Robin, I'm sorry for interrupting you in your pre-recording spiel. I just was trying to look out for you and ended up making it harder. So poetry, everyone, here we go. I have a small handful of poems that I thought I would share with you from a my next collection that I've been working on. Actually, all day today, I was working on sequencing these poems and trying to figure out if they're talking to each other or not. And so I'll dive right in because we have a lot of people and just a few minutes each. So given that what unites the readers tonight is this shared role of serving as poet laureate for our county, I thought I'd start with a poem called Jobs I've Never Had. Jobs I've Never Had. Husband to a bloom of box jellies, conductor of a symphony for worms, small god of roots flexing their slow pressure on the underside of the sidewalk, grass lengthener, fluffer of dandelions, designer of several hedge shadows latticed across a gravel shoulder, invisible fence test subject, rotter of new-bought pineapples, ghost wrapped in a carnival prize stuffed frog, croaking darkly as the bells and lights carom about the fairway, quiet force holding each bolt on the Ferris wheel in place, stitcher of clouds, shaper of air around the plane's wings, maker of lift while the passengers, pulled aloft, shift in their discomfort, bride to less air up where the earth's grip thins, man who holds back the moon's eyelid, singer in the void, comet whisperer, eccentric orbit celebration artist, distant cousin to silence and the cold of time, inspector of stray atoms, greeter of new stars. And so this manuscript, like my last one, circles a lot around fatherhood, in part because being a father is such a central facet of my existence. And um, this poem is called Morning Half-Light. You wake up thrashed along the fitted sheet and gummy with morning sweats like cod thwacked from the deep on a splintery dock, and in your own hand the rod and wheel. Outside, the air's all invisible and hazardous, but here, in this mess of coming to, the dangers remain a background radiation, as if that made them safer when everyone has within our bodies potassium 40 and carbon 14 from birth, evidence, and inheritance. We are sources of exposure to others. You know now, to hug a human in this world is to touch together the residue of nuclear bombs. You wake, and it's in your teeth still. You wake and it's itching at your skull's stiff base. You think this as your son, age 7, bounds, a cloud of adolescent stink and infant heat, into your bed. You hold him like a prize you've won. You hold him like you've caught a fly ball, like you get to keep him. Um, and here's another one. I'm realizing the sequence that I've chosen makes it look like we just lounge in bed all the time, but here we go. This one's called States and Princes, and it has a little epigraph from Cole Swenson, and it's the us overwhelms. States and Princes. Still in bed, and it's almost afternoon, nursing the clutch of needles behind my right eye, my second grader beside me wrapped around his switch, fingers twitching almost imperceptibly to make his avatar stack and destroy various blocks. I tell him I'm the biggest snuggler, and he says, "Prove it," but never flicks his eyes up from the screen. Two boys in our undies stinking up the bedroom, and as I slip my arms around his entire body, I think of Dun, negging the sun. This bed thy center is, these walls thy sphere. He stakes a lover's claim, but the mysterious she is silent, a sight. Here my son is building a world and wants me to watch. If I don't speak for too long, even with his legs propped on my legs, he calls out, "Dad?" like I might have slipped away. There is so much he can create, but no recipes in this game, so he wants me to look them up. And because I can find him these instructions, I do. I tell him how to craft diamond armor, even though he's impossibly safe. I tell him how to brew potions of healing, even though he can never come to harm. I will just do maybe two more because they're sort of quick at the end. No, you know what? I have time for one more, and that is what I will do. And it's this one. It's I've been writing a lot of pessimistic poems because of the world, but I thought I would end on a sort of more upbeat note here. This poem is called "I'm Not Saying We're Good." I'm not saying we're good, but when the ambulance gets insistent, we shuffle to the side like traffic is a square dance. Tipped hat, flipped heel. Most of us flick our brights to be legible, members of the other team ahead. We've made machines that can understand what we say and don't hate us yet. And the janitor smiles at the worried child mincing from the bathroom. I mean, how many statues did we cast in bronze, knowing the green skin the air would leave? How many of us hold the bus door open the day after another mass shooting? There's a cabal of fathers walking dogs through the pre-dawn blear, nodding without meaning at each other. I'm not saying the flood was a stumble. I'm just breathing into a book while this man, seated against a shopping cart tarped with cardboard, holds out in his open hand a sandwich butt to a reticent squirrel. Thank you very much. Thanks for
And
listening.
so before I turn the mic over to Janie E. Bibbie, I wanted to tell you about the Poet Laureate program. It's the position of Tompkins County Poet Laureate was established by our Tompkins County Legislature in 2001 to honor local outstanding poets, integrate poetry into the community, enrich the education of our young people, and enhance our county's position as a cultural center. The selection and announcement of the Tompkins County Poet Laureates is a process administered by our organization, the Community Arts Partnership. We solicit nominations and organize a selection panel for appointment to the post. Appointments have been for 2 years, and it's been going on, as we said, from 2001. So we're very happy to have that program, and we do have a page on our website with some more information. So now I am going to turn the mic, I keep saying the mic, but over to Janie E. Bibbie.
Thank you, Robin. As Robin said, it was my honor and privilege to serve as Tompkins County Poet Laureate for 2023 and 2024. I'm a self-published author of 17 books, including my journal, Alzheimer's Up Close and Personal. In addition to reading and encouraging others to write and share poetry, I conduct a caregiver group for anyone taking care of their loved ones or learning self-care. In March of this year, Senator Leah Webb gave me the New York State Senate Commendation Award for my service to Tompkins County. The poems I selected are about wind and water, and they're from 5 of my books: Eclipse, Willow, Keep Moving, Why Me, and Flow. All of my books are available at one of our sponsors, Places, Odyssey Bookstore. The first poem is called Dry Water. Water is wet. It seeps through, covers lots of ground, saturates the atmosphere. Water is dry. It covers the mind, clouds the eyes, weighs on the heart. Words can be dry, dry like water. Words cover lots of ground. Words can saturate the atmosphere. Words can cause water to flow from eyes that were dry. Feather on the waves. Riding high and low with the rhythm of the water, or laying on the smooth glass of a calm sea. How peaceful it seems to be. Wind comes along and blows real strong. Feather has to move. Wherever the waves go, Feather has to follow. There's no other choice. Peace and calm are memories. Feather cannot float with ease until the turmoil goes away and Feather can return again to riding high and low with the rhythm of the smooth glass of a calm sea. Windy day. Palm trees are leaning into the wind. It whistles past the window. Hands grasp hats, holding them closely. The wind is relentless, seeking hats and scarves and leaves, taking anything to corners, treetops, and roofs. Pedestrians lean into the gust, struggle to maintain their balance. Wind is bringing change, taking stagnant and routine and untethered. Wind is bringing us to attention. Be alert. Watch for obstacles and debris floating with gusts and particles of dust. Water is a miracle. It fits where it lands, in a glass, in a bowl, in the sea, in your hand. Water can quench your thirst. Water can seep into dirt. Water can lift a boat. Water can make a house float. Water can clean your hair. Water can flow through air. Water can be a drop. Water can make the earth stop. You can believe in miracles or not. Look at water. Touch too. Water is a miracle right in front of you. Turbulence. No hiding place, no resting space, tossed and turned upside down. Wind everywhere, blowing here and there. Things and thoughts randomly tossed. You want to scream, and yes, you do. This stage of life is too much for you. Might as well give up the fight. Hold on to what you know is right. Reach down into your memory. Find something that will bring you peace. A song, a prayer, a time back when you had no worries, you had a friend. Ride the waves of turbulence. You have no choice. That's where you are. Even when the waves are high, they will never reach the sky. And when the waves are way down low, you can find peace there, you know. And when those waves begin to slow and stretch themselves out to a flow, spend some time in thankfulness. Realize you pass a test. Prepare to ride the waves again. Life will turn us up and down, this way, that way, all around. Go with the flow. Learn while you ride and grow. Sea breeze. Windows are open. Fresh, cool breezes blow in from the sea. The sea is miles and miles away. Winds bring breezes all over the world. You say the breeze blowing through my window is not a sea breeze. I believe it is. And that thought brings peace to my mind. Thank you.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to be among the Poets Laureates. And welcome, Dan, to the laureateship. It's so great to have you. And thanks, friends who are here, including a cousin who's here from California or Chicago right now, who I saw on the list. Hi. Okay, let me get organized. Sorry. I just have a few poems. The first one I want to read, I wrote while I was in the Poet Laureate position, and it's so touching to be called upon as a poet to go into action where poetry is needed. And so I wrote this poem trying to capture what that felt like. Poetries. Praise the path that poetry makes from the prison cell to the legislative chamber, from the choir mouthing an ancient hymn to the bookstore with clumsy chairs. Praise children, praise all that is taken up by osmosis in those shiny, still, unbroken leaves. Praise the wind, nodding and spitting with mouth and tongue, guttural howls tried on thin air. Elders who priest us, young people who witch us. Praise whoever is standing alone on a stage, stammering, or in a holding cell asking for a book. The way we lumbering humans, we lumbering animals take heart and heart and heart again in what moves us to the edge of ourselves. Halo of light rounding the corner. And this next poem, Gull Anniversary. The electric goes out as we try to leave. Rat tunnels in our garden. My mother in her white sweater and onyx earrings. My father laughing at us while we sing Happy Birthday off key. The house an experiment in extension cord management. Before the Memorial Day parade, traffic slows. Firefighters ford the stream of cars boot-handed. Everyone waving plastic flags. This morning, I leaned over my husband's bed to kiss him, and he pulled me into the bed. Gravity rearranged our bodies. A rainy, toothless day. I want more than the poem will give. A bowl of rubber bands on the kitchen counter. Oregano's heady scent. We celebrate our anniversary on the beach. A windy picnic, sand sticking to the plastic lids, hummus, avocado, shrimp. A gull walks the beach, his right wing dragging beside him. An older man walks behind the bird, right arm tucked in his pocket. As he walks away, the gull follows. Branch that breaks underfoot. Come to realize we share the same roots, entanglements and mycelium, traveling threads of an intergalactic nervous system. Inside my gut, a field of poppies, a burning rainforest, gurgling shale, molecule to molecule, mouth to mouth. Drought lives inside of me, and also civil war. A kelp forest respired my first breath, buffalo and prairie grass, carbon from the earth's first fires, mercury from the hospital incinerator, fire that makes its own weather, filament of webbed warbling. And this next poem begins with a line from Naomi Shihab Nye from her poem Kindness. And the line is, "The thread of all sorrows is woven into every living thing." Floodwaters. The thread of all sorrows is woven into every living thing. After the water recedes, a moss-covered sneaker wilds the shore. Bits of plastic and broken bottles, cement. Bumblebee clinging to the last of the season's aster. Wind doffing yellow leaves of aspen. A mother in Gaza digging through concrete. The spine of a peach tree gone cold and shivering. And my last poem is Stop the War. Stop the war. How then to go about work? A little coffee? You will not sleep. A break for lunch? I water the plants. You won't return. Objections are like soap on a razor. The blade will be put away clean until next time. Snow falling so gently it hurts. And your eyelashes, kissed by snow, boughs break beneath the weight. Thank you.
Okay, a little background. I have 4 collections of poetry, working on the 5th one now. I'm one of the 3 original founders and editors of Canadian Light Books. Also founded way back in the 60s, a literary magazine for books, a literary of writing, which read for 14 issues and died with a good looking books. I've also been busy in drama. I've had 3 plays produced, 1 in New York City and 2 in Amsterdam. Okay. So our new laureate, Dan Rosenberg, has made a good deal with TCAT. We're going to have poems posted along the inside of the buses, much as they do in subways and so forth in New York City, poetry in the ocean. And I wrote this poem specifically for that honor, which I hope I will share. It's called Ticket to Ride. You get on, pay your fare, find a seat, sit down. For just a few blocks, a whole new life begins and disappears. You never even said hello. This is a spring poem of the Hippocrates. It's called Lewis and Clark. Across the wide prairie, two parts of this, part one. Across the wide prairie, two of them stretch their legs. Totally terra incognita, this new land. That's why they're here. Across the miles they move, observing, slow and easy, unaware or uncaring of strangers that lurk. They pick their way into the glaring light. The people who live on this expanse, who claim it as their own, care only that more of these creatures may follow, might gobble up their food. Part two. The two ants may or may not know each other. Miniature myrmidons, they seem to communicate, know they must follow, but know not where their voyage may lead. The eye of God watches as they advance. Must they report back to some Jefferson who bought this expanse and sent them to explore? More so, will the eye allow it? Evening, when the sun goes down, the kitchen overhead shines across the tile. The cat is unimpressed. Old man in his chair grants passage. He knows that others will come, but in the spring, a lazy fly buzzes puzzled at the screen. Some will live, some live. Many of my poems derive from dreams. I keep a little notebook right in the bed, and the ones that really seem impressive, so that after they just happen, like poetry, get written down. This one began. It's called Passage. It's a metaphor of life, from birth to death, and our voyage through it. Crossing the ocean, life on the ship is vivid at first. Good food, getting to know the others. By day, the vast water, and by night, the same, only darker, less boring, sometimes almost stimulating. Received wisdom holds that shipboard romances are always between parentheses. And so it goes. The voyage across the unknown waters that even the hardiest seafarers do not know. Cheered up when another ship appears, but so far distant, our waves are wasted, and theirs out there as well. Or nights when buffeting storms drive half the passengers to the rails, losing their dinners, while the rest of us sit grandly at the bar. Somebody's hand. When you get to port, we've been diverted for so long, we hardly know what day. And already are forgetting the names of those we met along the way, and swore we'd stay in touch. Finally, the shore is sighted. Docking, last moments at the main deck rail, hoping to spy familiar faces, then down the gangplank, into a wash of traffic and families, all strangers who also seem lost in their searching. We've disembarked on a different land, and now must learn the language and how things work here, if at all, before a final parenthesis gathers us in. This is another water poem. Dreams and water seem to haunt me. And a Scorpio, and it's strangely enough, Scorpio is a water sign, so here we are. This is called Floating By. Under the bridge, its girders encircling like arms above, and reflected below, I pass. In the same dream, my lover and wife, a phantom for so many years, leaned over my bed and kissed me. Impossible, my morning face mouse in the mirror, but I still sensed the smell of gratitude, confirmed by her photo in the room. We lose our lovers to distance or death. Yet we persist, even as a river reminds us of its changes or during. And last, but not the more perseverable dream. This is called Creatures of Dance. The first time I saw an octopus, I counted its legs. Not entirely easy because it insisted on dancing down there in the water. And my efforts at joining the dance were limited. Trying to breathe. So it goes. Half our lives, we try to join the other half and spend years swimming back up to the surface, gulping for air, an effort entirely arising from need, not experience, not pleasure, not learning a language different from our own, and finding it too late. It seldom rewards us for love, or at a fair, or an unmelting ice cube, or unsliced bread. That's all, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And I want to say thank you to Robin for all the amazing job of organization she does each year with this huge number of events. And my fellow poets laureate, a shout out to all of you. Dan, congratulations on being this year's Poet Laureate. And the others, I know you all, I've heard you all, and it's a pleasure to read with you. I'm starting with a poem. I'm married to a scientist, and his specialties is turbulence. And we talk about scientific things from my point of view. I need a lot of explanation. So but I love the terminology he uses. So I sometimes pick up some of the terms from my poems. And this one's called Passive Scalars. A passive scalar, and I'm reading a definition, is a substance such as a link or smoke that mixes in a fluid like water or air without affecting its motion, but makes that movement visible. Below us, a swirl of baroque pollution reveals hidden movement in the water without troubling the current's motion. Such flourishes in fluid flow seem to have no large effect, yet by their drift they let us know that grander currents move unseen, determining their destiny. Briefly, they swirl like snowflakes before they settle on a stream. Or this foam staining the creek below with pale paisley patterns until it loses itself in onward flow, relinquishing autonomy, as we must too, our brief and florid walls absorbed in water's relentless onward rush. And another one that reflects the sort of conversations we often have as we walk. It's called Clouds. The Greeks believed clouds were Nephili, nymphs who collected water in pots to pour on their brother rivers, the Potomi. Aristophanes decided clouds were where Socrates hung, suspended in a basket, teaching his disciples airy sophistry. Clouds had been around so long, you'd think we'd know them well by now, but scientists can get them wrong. What wanders lonely in the troposphere is made of water or ice crystals, but why clouds rain is still not clear. When seeding clouds was all the rage, planes bombed cumuli with chemicals so drops would form and disengage. But clouds are nothing if not shifty. They drop rain as they always have, on Scotland or some gloomy city. If clouds were tractable as sheep, we'd drive them over baking plains and save the world from rising heat. This poem's dedicated to an old friend who passed away several years ago, Hannah Block, the poet. Some of you may know her work. And it's called The Book That Came Back. The book that came back was my own, one poet's gift to another. Its dedication borrowed from a poem about the work we do, like Penelope, to keep our lives from unraveling. I'd run out of copies and bought it secondhand. You'd marked my poems in pencil, checks for those you liked, others with a note. Too clever, good rhymes. You wove your poems until the light faded. Your partner was the one who unraveled, scattering your books like husks in the wind. One found its way to my home in Ithaca, richer for what it had gained on the journey, its pages annotated by your careful hand. Grateful, I shelved it under you, under me. This poem has recently come out in the Oberon anthology. It's called Bomb-Proof. There was a cafe by the sea, not a special place, just a few tables and chairs where men talked, drank bitter coffee, and listened to an oud as the heat rose like dust that follows a passing car. The city has a new topography, mountains and valleys, uplands and lowlands, escarpments where the hopeful go on digging. There's no accounting for all this death. No eye equals an eye, no tooth a tooth. A child lost before he can count to 10 equals 1,000 deaths for his mother. She's not counting. When the archaeologists dig a trench, they'll mark this layer the site of a Troy, a Carthage. They'll sift the bones and plastic toys, copper kettles, flip-flops, coffee cups. They won't find the shards of a cafe by the sea. It lives in the bomb-proof shelter of my mind. This is another Gaza poem called Eyeless, and the epigraph is from Milton's Samson Agonistes. Promise was that I should Israel from Philistine yoke deliver. Ask for this great deliverer now and find him eyeless in Gaza, at the mill with slaves. Pin-up boy of the Israelites. Samson was undone by a woman. Delilah was pretty, maybe a whore or just short of money. She was promised a whole lot. Samson, they knew, had a weakness for women. It took a while before he told her his secret. As they shaved off his hair, she took a handful. It was long and black as night and smelled of cloves. She would bury her fingers in it when they made love. They never told her they would take his eyes, too. His screams sent her mad. She threw the money she'd earned at their feet. Eyeless in Gaza, slave among slaves, Samson was forced to grind grain in the mill until his hair grew and his strength returned. They showed him off like a bear in the arena until, pretending to rest, he grasped 2 columns and brought the roof down, crushing the Philistines like grain. Samson muscled his way into history, destroying an enemy whose name was grist for myth. When a new enemy's name sounds like an old one, it's easier to crush them like grain. And I'll end with a lighter poem. We recently visited the place where I was born, Australia, and this is something that happened when I was there, and it's called Lyrebird. I used to dream of seeing a lyrebird. Like platypi and koalas, lyrebirds were emblems of my native land. Seeing them in the wild would be, I thought, like seeing a lion or a unicorn on England's pleasant pastures. And here they were crossing the road, female in front, more scruffy chicken than mythical bird, male behind, trailing the glory of his fern-frond tail before disappearing in untidy bush. We stop in a forest of mountain ash, giant gums that dwarf tree ferns, and walk through a litter of bark in a shrill chatter of parrots. Or is it another lyrebird fooling us? Great dissembler, he can mimic kookaburras, chainsaws, and crying babies, but only when courting does he dance on the mound he has built, tipping forward and spreading his tail in the classic shape of an ancient lyre, while he hops back and forth in an extravagant display designed to charm the unremarkable bird who watches him from the sidelines and decides if all this charm is worth her while. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you on screen and all of you who are listening who appreciate poetry, those rest of you who write it as well. I've chosen 4 poems for this evening that are about the world of fairy or fairy tale. First one in the spirit of Christina Rossetti and her Goblin Market. This one is called Winter Fair. Some are foxes, some are hares. Some offer tails and ears no creature the human world has ever known to run through fields or shadowed forests, even in dream or nightmare rising between cool dusk and dawn. Tents billow, counters bulge. Fruits and sweets and charms give color to every basket, each wide bin tempting brave hands to explore. Tongues and wings to vibrate, knowing by day it will be gone. Need a blossom? Want a kiss? Eager voices offer magic, solid as a polished jewel, to wear as necklace, keep in pouch, marvel at in stars' sharp light, together or alone. I ventured once. I dared my breath. Count the stories on my arms of what I tasted, what I drank, how I danced in red shoes when that 9-fingered fiddler grinned and started up his song. I always encourage my students at Ithaca College and the courses that I teach that focus on fairy tale to look wider, look longer, somehow reach beyond the tale that everybody knows. And maybe what happened before, or maybe what happened after the story we know. And this next poem addresses a story that's quite in the news right now with what Disney has just released. So be thinking about your thoughts about Snow White. When they left the cottage behind, they had always mined the earth outside the forest where trees grew thin on mountainside after mountainside, shadows and lamps defining their days before and after the shining girl they gave away to a prince. Red caps, thick warm beards, hands steady on shovels and picks, as they knew seasons at dawn and dusk, sometimes at night if one awoke to a mating owl, crickets in chorus, chestnuts dropping, snow pattering glass. Decades of breath among the 7, simple meals, shared trips to town to sell the magic of the ore that glittered or gleamed in buyers' eyes, taking the shape world needed most. So, of course, when death tapped one, they all felt it in their bones and walked together one final time to the cave they'd hollowed far away from the reach of their fairy tale. There, if you're lucky or chosen or blessed, you may one day wander and hear echoes of iron on veins of dream and find just one at your weary feet, a stone that glows with love's real name. You may pick up and hold and keep. I also encourage folks to go beyond the living creatures, perhaps. Animals, yes, but how about the things, the objects of the tales? Could they tell their own stories? Maybe even a structure could speak. Rapunzel was always one of my favorite tales as a little girl. Her tower. So many stones, so sagely selected to carry the magic that can hold a girl allowed to look out the one window needed to let Mother Witch climb in. As she built me, as she smoothly piled weight upon weight in perfect balance, I slowly felt myself become important, famous, destined to be so much more essential than the garden where she'd made the rampion rise. Around me, the wild forest waited to see how high I would become. Gothel in her ceaseless passion, always alone, always humming music, sharp and deep as a dark owl's call. Part of me is quartz-veined granite, part hard sandstone stained with blood. Most came from white-pillared temples smashed by Christians hating gods and goddesses whose faces shone. Which is why I shine when the sun's just rising, when it lets its rays play on the coils of golden hair my perfect walls hold fully. That's when the pretty one imprisoned wakes up, leaving dreams behind. Some days she stands, starts to stretch, to sing. Most days she just reaches from her bed, traces where my stones are joined, as though her fingers could push through, as though I weren't solid, secure, more permanent in my own story than any prayer or love that tries to last. And the last poem is dedicated to Barbara Walker. I hope some of you are familiar with her work, a deeply important spiritual feminist. It also brings in one of my favorite creatures in the world, the fox. We think about crones. We think about those women appear again and again in the tales. They're so important, often also called wise women. Near her cauldron, where a she-fox leaps, wise woman drapes herself in crimson, the robe her mother wore until death, and lifts a goblet of ruby glass to praise the moon with Isis horns high in clear black sky. Weather is coming, a storm, hard winds, snow that will cover and blind. But here, with her fire and her small red beast, she'll use her prayers to guide the lost travelers in these cold, wild woods, to find the homes that will keep them alive, at least this one dark night. Thank you.